places. And we all want different things. I want to grow my career.
I want to make a difference.
I want my research to have an impact. But we all have one thing in common.
We want to be somewhere we can fulfill our ambition. Not just a graduate business school, but a global community full of people who want to go further,
Push harder. Achieve more.
do things differently,
With the faculty producing cutting edge research that's making a difference.
changing how we think.
A community that's making its mark on Ireland and the world.
At Ireland's highly ranked and triple accredited business school, offering internationally recognised MBA and business masters programmes. Distinctively located in Dublin, one of the friendliest, most exciting cities in the world, and home to the world's leading companies. A local campus with a global network of alumni, where students connect with industry leaders and each other.
Where faculty address the biggest problems of today, creating real solutions for the real world. We'll all end up with different careers.
In different places,
Making an impact in business and society.
we're all different.
But we'll always have one thing in common.
UCD Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School, creating a better future. Everybody's different.
Great. Welcome everybody to this webinar where you already heard a little introduction about how it is to be having an MBA from UCD Smurfit in Dublin. And we're going to hear more about this and why to choose an MBA with them in the next 45 minutes or so. My name is Luc Mulling. I'm the moderator of today. And before we go over to the presenters that we have lined up, and actually we have 4 students for you as well, so you can all get ready and get your questions ready, all the things that you wanted to know about the MBA. A couple of things just to explain to you. First of all, you can indeed say where you're logging in from. So I see already many people did that, so great. By all means, do that. But also more importantly, you can write your questions at any time through the panel called questions at the bottom, just to make sure that we don't miss them. Also, I will be opening up a couple of poll questions just to get to know you a little bit better, also at the bottom. And last but not least, we have actually a little fun button as well, just to make it even more interactive. You can click on the emoticon at the bottom. So you see there a button called React. And if you click on that, indeed, you can send us your reaction of choice, just to see if you're liking it, or just to make it a bit more interactive for the presenters as well. Great to see. Well, without further ado, let's go over to the presenters. We'll start with Mayred. Thanks to introduce yourself and the lovely students you have with you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome today, this afternoon, to our webinar, where we're showcasing our full-time MBA program. We have 2 MBA programs. We have an executive program as well, which is part-time, but today we're focusing on the full-time MBA, which is 1 year long, starts at the end of August and runs for 1 year. So just to, as I said, introduce myself, I'm Mairead Mulvey and I'm the MBA Admissions Manager. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the business school itself, just briefly give you an oversight and overview of it. And I suppose to focus on what makes our MBA different. And if you're considering doing an MBA, why you should consider us. We feel the best way, I suppose, to give you the best insight is to literally have a chat with our students. So we've been very kindly joined by 4 of our full-time students this afternoon, which I'm very grateful for because they're very busy at the moment. And they'll be able to give you the insight or answer any questions that you have if you're deciding A, to do an MBA, and B, to come to Smurfit or come to Dublin. So if we just go around the room, so to speak, if you could introduce yourself, that would be super. So Dan, do you want to start, please?
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be on this call. My name is Dan. I'm originally from Romania. I moved to Ireland almost 16 years ago. And yeah, very, very excited to share more about my experience with UCD Michael Smurfit and also about life in Ireland.
Thank you, Dan. Laura, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, so my name is Laura. I'm French, but I have lived in Dublin for 8 years now. I used to work in TikTok and I decided to leave to pursue my MBA full-time about this time last year, I would say. And yeah, very, very excited to provide you with any information. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Laura. Carol, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hello everyone. It's so great I have the opportunity to introduce Michael Smurfit and myself. My name is Carol. I'm from Shanghai, China. And before I started in Michael Smurfit, I used to be a procurement people from global pharma that is AstraZeneca. So this is the first year I've been living in Dublin. It's beautiful and the program is amazing. I would like to introduce your school, and if you have any questions, just reach out to me and I can help to solve some questions and share my experience here. Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. And last but definitely not least, Philip.
Hi, so my name is Philip. I'm originally from Canada. I worked in property taxes for a software company, and I left to start my own business. I'd been working on my own business for about 2 years, and then I decided to pursue an MBA at Smurfit. I like Ireland's economy and all of those things, so if anyone would like to ask any questions, feel free as well.
Thank you, Philip. So we'll just give a quick overview now of the business school. Just a little bit about ourselves. So we're one of Ireland's leading and top-ranked business schools and have been for many years now. We were the first business school to actually have an MBA, to teach an MBA over 60 years ago now. And we were the first business school to have the triple accreditation. And that's where we're, ranked highly amongst the 3 quality standards that determine how the value, I suppose, of our MBA. There's lots I could tell you, but I'm just going to hit on a few key aspects of as Smurfit, essentially, that I feel are, would be interesting to anybody who's considering Smurfit. Because we're so long in teaching the MBA and we're the longest business school the longest established business school in Ireland, we have a huge global alumni network. At the moment, that's 114,000, and that's a very significant amount of people that you can leverage off in terms of connections and having a network and making contacts with. And our school also, encourages engagement with the alumni. So there's a great bond between most of those people. And as mentioned, they're located globally, essentially. We have a dedicated MBA careers manager, which I'll come back to later, because again, that's something that's different about us. Because we know that if you come to do your MBA here in Ireland, and it's full-time, you're not going to be working. So we're very aware of the fact that you will need to find a job when you're an MBA graduate in 1 year's time. So we work very closely with you, literally from day one, with our careers manager works with you, should I say, and the team, to help you navigate a pathway to find the career that you're actually looking for and the type of role that you're hoping to get when you graduate in a year's time. Just a little bit about our location. We're part of UCD, which is the biggest university in Ireland, but we have a standalone campus, which you can see there in the backdrop. Is a beautiful old building, but lots of it's been renovated, and we have a lot of state-of-the-art facilities as well. We're about 2 kilometers from the main campus, where there are a lot of, other facilities, sports facilities and different clubs and networks that you might be interested to join. So still very close. We're about 20 minutes from the city centre, lots of public transport links to utilise. And we're also right on the coast, so we're beside the sea, which is always nice if you want to get out and get some fresh air on your way home or on your way to college. So that's just a tiny bit about ourselves. Just very quickly, why do people mainly undertake an MBA? The first thing that's acknowledged globally is that it's a qualification that's recognised everywhere. So it doesn't matter what country you're based in or what country you plan to work in. An MBA is a level 10 qualification, and any employer understands the effort and the intensity of that of a program, an MBA program, wherever you do it, and the fact that you have the skills and the tools and the understanding to have a good, grasp of running a business, every aspect of a business, and you have credibility, I suppose, in a business sense, okay? So that's the first thing. A lot of people use it as a passport to career change. That can be to pivot your career into a different area. Many of our students use the MBA or do an MBA because they might come from, a technical background, for instance, and they want to move into more of an operational role or a managerial type, a leadership role more broadly within their organization, or a different organization, obviously. And they still keep their expertise. It could be in engineering or medicine or marketing, but then they get the overall broad business acumen, essentially, to be able to pivot into different areas of a business. So they're the 2 key aspects of why to do an MBA. But then what we always look at in terms of our MBA, we have to combine this with the opportunity, I suppose, to unlock your leadership potential, because ultimately an MBA is about leadership. It's about leading people. It's about leading businesses. It's about making decisions and trusting your own judgment and being able to operate at a level that, a C-suite that, as I said, you're both confident yourself in your decisions, your business decisions, and your stakeholders or your colleagues around you have that reassurance, shall I say, that you have that capability. So they're the reasons generally that people do an MBA. But at the moment now, I'm going to go to our panel, and I'll just ask you overall, guys, is there anybody that, is there anyone that wants to tell me why you chose to do an MBA that kind of is relevant to what we've just mentioned there, what I've just mentioned?
Maybe.
Nobody?
Carol.
Yeah, as I shared before, my purpose here is quite clear because Ireland is quite famous for biotech. This is the pharmaceutical hub for Europe. So this is the first reason why I'm here. And second reason is I would like to be a purchase officer. So to build up my academic knowledge system and to build up the global networking is quite important for me currently. So only 2 reasons why I'm here. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. And just to be clear, Carol, you're at a fairly senior level in AstraZeneca, in the pharmaceutical company that you were working in. So is that the case, that you were hoping to broaden out your business skills so that you can elevate further and have more impact on the business, the pharma sector, essentially?
Yeah. For example, I used to read a lot of financial reports, and I need to do some calculation. And I need to claim my procurement savings and to make it to show the contribution in P&L. But I used to only know how to do it, but I don't know the methodology behind. But the finance program and accounting program and the financial reporting is quite important for me currently because I learned to know the methodology and why I need to do in this way. So I think that is quite valuable for me to study here. Yeah, that is my second reason.
Again, that's coming back to you feel confident that you can read a set of accounts and understand a balance sheet and be able to question it and not be afraid to offer an opinion based on that kind of financial knowledge, even though that's not your speciality, that's exactly.
Yes, because procurement people normally report to CFO, and CFO, that is the expertise from finance and accounting. So I used to be quite afraid of report to CFO about some figures, but now if I report to her second time, I will be quite confident at that part. Yeah.
And the other thing that you mentioned there, interestingly, as I said, we have, so many networking opportunities, is that you wanted to expand your network globally.
Yeah, because as you know, AstraZeneca is a multinational top 10 pharmaceutical global wide. So I did have some subordinate based in maybe Japan, Cambridge, and based in maybe in Singapore. So I did need to learn some different cultural differences in between, and to help myself to build the networking for my next position when I back to the global pharma. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Carol. Laura, do you mind if I ask you what made you decide to do an MBA, and what are you hoping to achieve essentially?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was working in TikTok before doing my MBA, and I wanted to speed up the process, and the MBA was a way for me to kind of go to more senior positions. I want to have more impact basically on what I'm doing, and I want to move to like corporate strategy, either corporate strategy or consulting, but basically having a direct impact on the business. So I'm coming from a tech background, and I want to stay within the tech background. So that's not like a industry move for me, but it's more to speed up the process and kind of get to more senior positions.
Exactly, and you use the word have more impact on the business. That's that you're not sectioned off into, you're not pigeonholed into an area, that you can offer expertise in lots of different areas of the business. Yeah, and that opens up all the opportunities for you, doesn't it? And to elevate and progress your career quicker. No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Anybody else, Dan or Philip? Do you want to express why you wanted to do an MBA, or do you want to wait for later?
No, I can jump in very where can I start? But I'll try to be brief. So I mentioned I moved to Ireland 16 years ago. Back at home, I graduated as a maths teacher, but I started my career backwards. I started in sales. When I moved to Ireland, actually, I started studying at UCD, a master in business analytics at that time. And then I moved to tech, similar to Laura. I worked for eBay, PayPal, and at Facebook for about 8 years. But I felt like I was hitting a wall in my career development. So this is when I decided it's time to go back studying. And what a better place than going back to the UCD campus. And I have to say, my expectations were already high, but there have been my expectations have been, let's say, exceeded because of the curriculum of the program. Laura mentioned about strategy. We're studying strategy, but also leadership and the LEAP program Marie mentioned. The alumni network is a big advantage, as you can connect with a very, very wide network. And just overall, I feel that sometimes, probably you remember those memes with a square wheel, and it's like, I don't have time to make it better. I think this program is the perfect program to step back and have a look at your, let's say, long-term career. And I couldn't be happier being here.
Super, Dan. Thank you so much. So we'll just move on. I'm going to just go through basically what makes the Smurfit MBA different. So as we've mentioned, it's one of Ireland's leading business schools, but it's also, or Smurfit, it's also in the top 1% of business schools in the entire world. There's approximately 15,600 business schools, and we're in the top 1% of that. Plus, we're consistently high in all the rankings, as you can see there, the different ranking bodies. In general terms, we break it down into 3 components as in what makes us different, and tying into that central theme about creating global business leaders. So we start off with academic excellence, then we have action learning and challenging experiences. So I'm just going to run through these fairly quickly, but because I want to go back and then, let the panel give examples or, tell you about their experiences of these aspects of the program. So in terms of academic excellence, where the whole idea is to empower our students with the latest and greatest insights. So there's a lot of cutting edge research. We have a very highly rated faculty, academic faculty, but plus Smurfit has very tight industry links and connections with the outside business world, essentially. So we have a lot of lecturers that come in that are experts in their field outside academia, and they're literally at the cut and thrust of what's happening outside, and they come in then to lecture our students. So we're very up to date, and then that's, as I said, coupled with an excellent faculty staff who do, have renowned research to back them up, shall we say, and just a really good teaching environment in general. And as I said, I can certainly ask the panel to comment on that. You can see there a list of the various different modules that we cover. So just gonna kind of cut to the next one quite quickly. So action learning. So I suppose it's not just a case of sitting in a classroom, learning, somebody lecturing and the students learn. We try and make it as interesting and challenging and as interactive as possible. There's a lot of the teaching is based on a case study method, and again I'll ask the panel to comment on this, but it's a lot more interactive, shall we say, and there's a lot of simulations in terms of a problem or a business and how to a challenging situation and how to find resolutions to that type of situation and learn from it, I suppose. One of the big emphasis that we have in our MBA class is that we try and put together a class with as much diversity as possible. And you can already see that from the panel that are here today. Everybody's from a different country and has a different cultural background. Plus, they're coming from different sectors and have had different experiences. So we find that when you bring a lot of people together that are coming from, as I said, are as diverse as possible, but do have some, they have experience to back them up. So if you put these people into, say, a project group of 4, they learn from each other. There's huge peer-to-peer learning because everybody has had a different experience. Everybody will have a different perspective, and everyone will learn from each other. And the example I usually use in relation to this is if you can take any profession you want, but if you have 4 accountants all in a project team and they're trying to, rationalize a business, a simulated case where they're trying to rationalize a business and they need to come up with ideas as to how to do this as effectively as possible. They will all learn from each other because people will always learn from each other, but there'll be a ceiling in terms of what they can learn or how much they can learn. But if you have an accountant, an engineer, a technical person, and maybe a doctor all in the same project group, they will come at it from very different perspectives, have very different ideas, and open up ways of thinking to their colleagues that they wouldn't have thought of before. So the learning is much more enriched when you have a really diverse class, and that's proven, and that's what we've learned. So that's what we maintain, I suppose, in our MBA class. So then the next first aspect of the program I just want to comment on is our MBA provides challenging and transformational experiences, and part of that is there's four things, I suppose, that I mentioned here. So the first one is that we're a member of the GNAM network, and that's a group of business schools located globally. I think there's 32 in total, and every year, it's usually in October, our students get the chance, if they wish, to travel to one of the other business schools in the network to do an intensive module over a week. And it's a really, really enriching experience. And I'll come back to one of the panelists who did it this year quite recently, so we'll be able to hear all about it. So that's the first thing, but we are the only business school that are a member of GNAM and where you will get that opportunity. The other thing that we do is international field trips. Last year, the full-time class went to Singapore in March for 8 days as part of their international business module. And in Singapore, they were introduced to lots of different businesses where they learned about what it's like to do business in a different country with a different jurisdiction, and you know, all the things that there are to learn when you go to a different market, essentially. And they visited a wide variety of companies, and everybody always says it's really enriching and really informative and thoroughly enjoyable. So that was the first trip. And then the second trip, it was in June, and it'll be similar for next year. It's where the students go to another market again to do an international consulting project. And that's where they are working on a real life project for a company based in that country. This year it was Portugal, and the students all went to Lisbon. And it's an intensive week where they are actually doing a consultancy project. So it's real life experience. And then on the last day, I think they go for 6 or 7 days, but they spend 5 days actually working, and then 2 days to enjoy afterwards. But they present to the company, and they give them a full, the representatives of the company, a full report and with their recommendations, etc., and they're marked on it. And then the final kind of transformational experience, or challenging experience, again, it's real life. It's the capstone consulting project, and that's a project at the end of the program for about 2 months, where again the students work in project groups and they work on a real life consultancy project for a company here based in Ireland. And again, like that, it's very involved, pretty intense, and they present and hand over their consultancy report at the end of the program. And again, that's credit bearing. All of these experiences are credit bearing, so they matter in terms of your final score, except for the GNAM week. And sorry, just to touch on that, if any student doesn't want to travel for GNAM, you can also do it in UCD and Smurfit, and then you're joined by other students coming from the other business schools, coming in internationally. So again, it's a different type of experience. So based on that, I just want to go to Laura. Laura, you went on the GNAM week this week. So do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, thank you. I traveled in October. I went to Yale, so in the States. It was really, really good. So it was 1 week basically where you go to class on the Yale campus, so the School of Management there. You're being taught classes by their faculty, and you're joined by students from different universities. So it was me and someone else from UCD who went together to the school in Yale. The topic was organizational behavior science. So it was really interesting. Basically how some psychology and how framing certain issues can lead to different outcomes and things like that. We looked at behavioral finance, which was completely foreign to me. I've never heard of such a thing, so it was really interesting. And yeah, it's great as well to meet a lot of people. Really good networking week. I'm still in contact with everyone from different schools. There was people from all over the world, so from India, from Oxford University, from Ghana, from Nigeria. Like, it was very, very diverse. So honestly, it was a really, really good week. Yeah, really interesting.
Thank you very much, Laura. And would any of the other panelists just like to comment on doing it in Ireland, doing it in UCD? No? No takers.
I could, if no one else shares the thoughts yet. I would say, I mean, there are a lot of advantages, and probably you already mentioned so many. But for me, coming also from a business environment, like I worked in quite a few companies, it matters a lot to have a diverse set of cultures and people from different backgrounds, because this will make it way more easier for you to work for any company in the world, and try to just collaborate on specific projects, learning how to work with people from all over the world. I would say this is one of the biggest pluses for me, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. So that's really interesting, and thanks, Laura, just to give an insight into GNAM. So just go on to, we're going to talk, I think, a little bit about our LEAP program now. So these are just some photographs. So the GNAM Network Immersion Week, that was 3 of our students last year in Berlin. That's a photograph in the center of our class in Singapore last year, as mentioned, and that's a picture of one of the project groups in Lisbon in June. Just for the record, I believe next year they're also going to go to Singapore because it was so successful, and also to Lisbon as well. So it's a great opportunity to, do these trips. Plus, basically the cost is covered as part of your tuition fees, so it doesn't cost you any additional funds essentially to do these trips, except for GNAM. The university pays your tuition fees, but in terms of your travel, you have to cover that yourself. But the other 2 trips are covered. So just very quickly, so this is one of our key components, I suppose, of the MBA, again, in terms of what makes us different, because you've lots of different choices if you want to do an MBA as to where to do it. So kind of relatively recently, a new module was introduced, the MBA LEAP program, and that stands for Leadership and Employability Advanced Program. And that is basic. The fundamentals of this module are to elevate your leadership potential and skills, not even potential, it's to realize your potential essentially, and your overall employability. As I mentioned, everybody does an MBA, they're working all year, and 99% of people want to get a really good job afterwards essentially, and as soon as possible, because again, it's an expensive year, and you need to, a lot of people need to refund maybe loans or whatever that they took out. So the leadership program starts with identifying, where your skills are at, what base level you're at, what you're good at, what you're weaker at, and then working with you very much in a one-to-one basis to try and elevate your skills up to the point where, what an employer would consider commensurate with somebody with an MBA graduate essentially. So there's a lot of self-development, I suppose. So you're working on your own communication skills and your teamwork skills, and your, how innovative you are, and your organizational skills even, and how engaged you are with aspects outside of maybe the classroom, all of that kind of thing. You take an overall look at yourself, and then your employability, and that's all the practical stuff, like even from day one, kind of having a look at your CV and trying to produce the best possible CV that you can, and somebody works with you on that, and interview preparation, meeting employers, going to visit employers, going through employability assessment centres. There's one of them that'll be happening in January. It's a very intense couple of days whereby all the students have to analyse a case study and present to an organisational psychologist, and then they get feedback, and then they also work in a group whereby they are observed by a number of organizational psychologists as to how they participate in the group, and they get a lot of feedback on that, you know. And also they do mock interviews, they get a job specification, and they go through the most real life mock interview that I've ever been present for. So it's really interesting, it's really valuable, and it really helps our students then, you know, get that role, you know, that they hoped for at the end. But it also helps people identify the type of role, the type of company that they want to go into, or how they want to create a pathway to getting that type of job. And because a lot of our students are international, they mightn't have a network here in Ireland. So there's a lot of emphasis on networking and opening up doors to you that you wouldn't normally have. And just to give an example, one of the ways that this is done is even by you get matched up essentially with a mentor after Christmas, ideally coming from the type of background or company or sector that you're hoping to get employment in. And that mentor is an MBA graduate that would have come from Smurfit, and they work with the students one-to-one, and that's just invaluable experience. And again, in terms of networking, opening doors and giving you an insight that you couldn't possibly have had before, you know, it is invaluable. So that's just a little bit about LEAP. Just really quickly, Bernie Burke is our MBA careers manager, and she always starts off with, you know, trying to help people identify what their dream job is. And as you can see there's an amalgamation of circles. So, you know, you have to consider what you're good at, what you love to do, and then what somebody will pay you to do. So it's to try and find that sweet spot, you know, and then create a pathway to get there essentially. And as you can see, it's based on competencies, it's based on the market and what's happening at the moment, or it's influenced, should I say, and your own personal preferences. So it's to kind of be aware of, you know, what you want to do, but also what you can do, and how long it might take you slightly longer to achieve what you're hoping to achieve, but just to identify how you'll get there essentially. And then just really quickly, so the Smurfit Employability Competency Framework, these are the key aspects of that program that are focused on. So adaptability, communication and influencing, critical thinking, inclusive leadership, results focused, teamwork and collaboration. So just to kind of get an overview of where you're at on everything, and then work with you to, you know, to get to the level that you need to be at, as I said, as an MBA graduate. So guys, we're at the end of November now, and you're in the program since the end of August. So what's that, 3 months? So do you want to just comment on your experience of LEAP so far? So you're still quite early on, but it would be good just to get any insight that you have into how you found it or how you're finding it so far, or any highlights that you've had in terms of LEAP. Anybody want to jump in? Philip, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, so I think we're still early on, and that most of the stuff is going to come later on. But I think in terms of self-reflection, it's really good for anyone who doesn't know exactly what they want to do, or for anyone who, like, I think I do know what I want to do, but it's good for figuring out what you're good and bad at. I think assessing those things really, really well in a way you wouldn't necessarily do anywhere else, I think.
Very good. And did anybody go? There was some company visits. I know, to Amazon and to our energy supply board. So anybody want to tell me a bit about that? Yeah, Philip, go.
Yep. So at Stripe, we went to Stripe for a company visit, and they also provide a financial service. So I work in property taxes, they work in payments, and it was really, really cool. One of the people I was listening to spoke my language about automation and stuff like that. And it was cool to see that a lot of things I was working on in Canada are similarly going on in Ireland in different companies that I hadn't heard of, you know, but it's really cool.
Very good, thank you. I'm just conscious that we want to go to our audience as well, to our participants for questions and answers. So we might just, I will finish out the presentation, and then there's just a couple of general questions I would like to ask you guys. This, for our participants, are some of the top employers that the MBA graduates work in, or MBA graduates of, are not, graduates of Smurfit working. So as you can see, a lot of tech companies, a lot of consulting companies. Dublin is a tech hub, and as Carol mentioned, we also have a huge pharmaceutical industry here in Ireland as well. So you can see those titles, and then I just want to touch on moving to Dublin. So just very quickly, if you do a full-time MBA, you are entitled to a 2-year stay-back visa, a 2-year stay-back visa, where you can live and work in Ireland, and then, you know, if you want to stay, it's highly likely that you will get another visa to stay on. I just want to also mention that we provide a lot of pre- and post-arrival support services. So we have an International Student Support Officer, Yola Mars. You can see there we have a student advisor, and we have global centres, as you can see, in Asia, China, the Middle East, North America, and South Asia. There's a lot of webinars and that will happen next year with a view to students that are going to be moving over, and we have a very comprehensive international student handbook. But just coming back to that moving to Dublin, does anybody, either Carol or Philip, do you want to tell me what it was like moving over, and do you have any advice or consideration? Would you like to tell any student who's considering coming over things that they should think about, or how your experiences were, you know, that if you had known then that you would have, you know, planned for now, essentially, if that makes sense? Sorry, it's badly phrased. So is there any tips or hints?
For me, I think when I officially study here, I visited Smurfit last Christmas. I just hope I can experience the academic environment here. So if you have some time and opportunity, I think before you make a final decision, maybe you can come here and to see the beautiful city here. Then it can help you to do the decision making. And the second point, tip, I think you need to transfer from previous model to current, because the only thing you need to do just focus on your studies, so you have time to reflect yourself and look back to your career path and have a deeper thinking. So my tips is just to think about your decision carefully. And if you have some time, you can visit Dublin and visit Smurfit first before you're making your decision. That would be quite helpful, yeah.
If that was possible. And what has it been like living in Dublin, Carol, since you moved over? How have you liked it?
I like it. I like the nature here. I like horse and I like hiking. So that is a perfect city I selected. So I like it, yeah. And before I live in Dublin, I was living in Shanghai. It's quite busy. That is the fast-moving city. So the biggest challenge that is for me, that is from the fast-moving city to here and be slow thinking and reflection. Yeah.
Very good. And Philip, you moved from Canada. So can I ask you, just how was your experience?
Yeah, so I think it was like not much of a cultural change, maybe a little bit, but I think like people are really nice. Meeting people I think is quite easy in terms of networking and stuff like that within Ireland. I agree with Carol, the nature is beautiful, hiking, things like that. It's beautiful. Places to run, I run. So yeah, I really enjoyed my move here. I think it's a beautiful country. I think it's a beautiful place to live. A lot of advantages too with, like she said, booming biotech sector and then tech as well. So it's cool. You'll meet a lot of people who work in these sectors just on your day-to-day life, I feel like, which is cool.
Very good. Thanks so much. And then I just want to just kind of wrap it up in terms of our conversation by asking you guys, what has been your highlight so far? And we're still kind of early on into the program, and I understand that. But what would you, just go around all of you, what has been your highlight so far in terms of your MBA and doing it in Smurfit? Dan, will we start with you?
Try to gather my thoughts. Well, I would say the class, first and foremost, working in study groups and also having individual projects, definitely a highlight. I think this is where I get most of the value, but also the expertise from the lecturers. I've never had lectures like the ones from the program, and I've been through quite a few schools, so I really appreciate this. And of course, the curriculum, the economy, the strategy class, I highly value that. But I'll stop here. The list is long.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. Laura, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, Dan, don't say everything because we'll have nothing left to say. But no, so for me, I think so we had a foundation week before we started, and I think it was very valuable. First off, you get to know everyone, so you actually work with everyone during that week before you being pushed in your study group. So it's a really good opportunity to meet everyone and work with everyone. And they kind of go through everything that, like they teach you the case study method, which is really interesting. There's a bit of a competition at the end of the week, which is it's a bit of fun. And then we end up in the pub on the Friday to celebrate the end of the foundation week. But yeah, it was a really good first week. I think like it takes time to get used to it. Going back to school, especially if we've been working before. So rather than just throwing you, and giving you assignments, and they really prepare everything for you and make it easy during that week.
Yeah.
Very good.
May I add on one sentence about the foundation week, because some of my friends currently studying MBA program in TCD, but they told me that they do not have the foundation week because I think foundation week is quite important for us to be prepared for our study. So I think it's really well organized and well considered about our change in between. So it's quite important, I think. Yeah.
Very good. So it's serious and, everything's organized, but there's a bit of fun thrown in there as well, and getting to know everybody. And by the time it starts properly, you feel like you're already part of the class. Would that be correct? Yeah. Very good. And then finally, Philip, thank you, Carol. Laura?
Yeah, so I agree with what Dan had to say. I think the faculty is one of my biggest favorite parts. I think everybody exceeded my expectations greatly, and I haven't had professors like that in the past. And yeah, I think Ireland as a place to study is something that exceeded my expectations as well, and I had very high expectations before coming here. So I think just where you are in today's economy is a really good place to be. But yeah.
Super. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm just going to touch on the eligibility criteria, how to apply for the program, and then we're going to go to questions from the audience. Oh, I will touch on this. We do have a lot of scholarships, MBA scholarships, as you can see there. We have the ones that would be most relevant to our full-time students would be, regional excellence or GMAT excellence, or scholarships dedicated to women on the MBA, an entrepreneurial scholarship. But what I would say to everybody that's here today, if you want to reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to have a more detailed conversation about scholarships and explain it to you one-to-one, if that's okay. And then just how to apply. You apply online. What you need, the eligibility criteria is that you need a university degree, a minimum of 3 years, ideally 5 years plus experience for the full-time MBA. It's 7 years for the executive MBA, but today we're talking about the full-time. If you only have 3 years experience, where you cannot count internships or contract roles or short-term experience, it generally should be in the one company where you've shown some progression, essentially. You do need to do a competitive GMAT score, or you need to do a GMAT test or an executive assessment test. Again, I'm happy to talk to anybody about that directly, but it's an exam that's used for business schools around the world. The score that you need on GMAT is 565 out of 805, and for the executive assessment it's 151 out of 200. What I will say is you can apply for the MBA, you can get a conditional offer. If you don't have your GMAT, that's not a problem. You have until next April to get it done. That, you know, you can do it in your own time, and that's the same for any English language test if that's relevant as well. You do need 2 recommendation forms, but it's just really the email address of a referee. The system sends the request directly to your referee, and they upload it directly. And then you need a current CV, passport photograph, that type of thing. Everybody who, you know, your application, once you've submitted it, is reviewed, and then you go through an interview, basically talking about your background, what you've done so far, why you want to do an MBA, why you want to come to Smurfit, and just to understand what you're hoping to achieve afterwards. So that's the eligibility and application process. And then we will go over to questions, Luke, if that's okay with you, because I'm concerned at the time, we're getting close to the time is running out.
Yeah, let's indeed jump to the questions, because those are important. Some questions came in from the audience. I just want to quickly just mention that if people watching the recording, as I know these days a lot of people do, you can still participate and interact with us in various ways. So you can also answer the polls that we have opened. You can also answer them, and you can also still write your questions in the question box. We cannot answer them live here, of course, but we will be sending them through to the staff of UCD. So let's go over to these questions. Quick one, we had one from Fahad. Thank you for scheduling this session. You're welcome. And how is an MBA different from an MIM at UCD? Which one is more sought out in terms of seeking employment post-completion? What can you say about that? Myra, you are on mute. Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. They're 2 very different programs. MIM is Masters in Management, and it's generally online. We have an online program that's part-time over 2 years. It's a very good program. What would I say? And it gives a broad overview of lots of modules that you would cover in a business, essentially. However, to do an MIM, you don't need any previous experience, so you can do it straight from, you know, your degree, or if you have 2 years or, you know, 2.5 years experience, that's probably the right course for you. The MBA is aimed at more, you know, people who have more professional experience, that it's not online, so you need to come to campus. It's intensive for a year. It's a grade 10 qualification, so it's at the same level as the PhD, whereas the MIM is a level 9. And the MBA is more intensive. The learning experiences and the skills and the tools that you acquire during an MBA are far more advanced than what you would acquire, you know, in terms of a Master's in Management. And in terms of what employers prefer, it, you know, based on the person, it's not just about having an MBA or a Master's in Management. It's about what have you done previously, how much experience do you have, what type of role are you trying to get, and a lot about what we just mentioned there in terms of the LEAP program, like what are your motivations and what are your competencies. So if you're looking for a higher level role, I would suggest an MBA is more likely to be the right program for you. Thanks, Luke.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Next question from Patrick. Will there be a similar webinar for those interested in the part-time 2-year executive MBA?
Yes, Patrick, we'll have we will have a webinar, but we'll also have an open day. We actually had one just in November a couple of weeks ago, but we're having another open day in February where we invite the executive MBA student, potential students onto campus, and you meet faculty staff, you meet the program office. There's going to be a taste lecture and a presentation like this. But what I would say is possibly if you could reach out to me directly, I'm happy to have any conversation with you, you know, either online on a Zoom call, or if you wanted to pop into the campus, that's fine as well. But yeah, today's session was more targeted or focused, should I say, on the full-time MBA. Anything else, Luke? Do we have?
Okay. Thank you. We're getting thumbs up, so that's good. I guess that answered that question. Yeah, we have a couple of more questions. Alokita's asking, will a PhD experience be considered work experience for an MBA application?
Possibly, yes. A PhD is a level 10 qualification as well. The only caveat with that is that the PhD, you would need to have, it would need to include some quantitative aspect. So that would be the only kind of caveat there. So if you have a PhD, you do not necessarily need to do a GMAT or an executive assessment, but the PhD needs to have incorporated some type of quantitative element, basically. I hope that helps. But again, anything that I haven't answered, you know, comprehensively enough, if anybody wants to talk more, just as I said, contact me directly. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with people individually.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question from Dexter. Which corporates are most popular in terms of hiring for graduates to get a full-time role at?
Well, you saw the slide of our top employers here at Smurfit. So obviously, as we know, Dublin is a tech hub. So we have, you know, we've all a lot of the headquarters of companies, European headquarters, should I say, here in Ireland. So we have LinkedIn, Google. Laura worked in TikTok. We've Microsoft, Dell. So we've a lot of tech companies. We have, as Carol mentioned, we have huge pharmaceutical industry here in Ireland. So we have a lot of, again, headquarters, European headquarters of a lot of the pharma companies. Not so much based in Dublin, they're based in Cork mainly, or medical devices. We have a big industry, big sector, which are based in another part of Ireland, in Galway. So all of those corporates are always hiring. Obviously, the market has, you know, goes through different challenges or different stages. So the tech industry went through a little bit of turbulence, shall we say, over the past couple of years. And I think it's settling now, and, you know, they're recruiting again, they're employing again, but the consultancy firms are always hiring and recruiting as well. And as I said, just to mention, the pharmaceutical industry, the medical devices industry is also very big in Ireland, you know. So all the corporates are hiring, but different sectors go through different challenges at different times. So just to be cognizant of that, and potentially do your research as well before you arrive, if you are keen on working in just one particular sector, and you're very focused on that. I mean, find out, you know, what the job market is like here, maybe before you arrive, if you're not sure if you should. Anything else, Luke?
Okay. Yeah, we have another question. So, question from Mohammed: is it fully accredited in the that's United Arab Emirates? And are there any credits against work experience?
No, there's no credits at all against work experience or previous learning in an MBA, because every MBA program that any business school does is designed differently. They cover the main fundamentals of that we've just discussed there: financial reporting, corporate, you know, strategy, marketing, digital marketing, all of that. They all cover basically the same modules, but every program is still different and designed differently. So there's no recognition of prior learning, and like that, there's no credits for previous work experience. the very fact that you get on the program, or potentially you're enrolled on the program, depends on your experience to a large extent beforehand. So that's where the value of your experience comes in. But no, there's no credits against that.
Okay, thank you. And before we go to the next question, you actually mentioned that you could share so people could get into contact with you. I don't know how you prefer that. Sarah asked for your email, if that's possible, for example.
Yeah, just on the, I have a, sorry, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Luke. The next, yeah. So MBA at ucd.ie. Yeah. And we also have just a blog there for people if they'd like to look at that. But yeah, absolutely. If you contact me on mba@ucd.ie, please mention if you were contacting me that you were on the webinar today. And I will, come back to you straight away and answer any questions and queries and help you make your decision.
All right, thank you very much. Also, I just dropped the link to the MBA admissions at the bottom of the screen. So there you can find the link to the portal, so to say, from UCD, and with all information there as well, and how to apply. So go ahead and check that out as well. Last question, or no, we have two more. Philip, is it difficult to find housing?
So I applied to have residency here, and there was a list. It was sent out at a certain date, and the earlier you applied, the quicker you would get it. And I was very sure to be there immediately when the list opened, and I was able to get housing. But housing is an issue here. Everybody is aware of it within the city, and if you have an opportunity to get somewhere good, you should take it. And to go off Carol's point, I think I didn't do this, but I think it is an intelligent thing to do, to visit Dublin before you do study, to get a feel for things, and housing as well. If you are planning to live off of campus, to come earlier to see your options, what you can do. But yeah, it is difficult, so that's the point.
Thank you. Any other tips on that, or a quick one? Anyone else want to say?
We do provide accommodation on campus. We directly in Smurfit, but also in UCD. To get the Smurfit accommodation, basically, if you apply as early as possible, and in order to do that, you have to be enrolled, I suppose, as early as possible. But obviously, that's very convenient for people if they're living on campus and studying at the same time. But we do have a lot of accommodation also in the main campus, and there's nobody that I'm aware of in the MBA that if they applied for accommodation on campus, in the main campus, that they didn't get it. But I would say the earlier the better, because it is challenging sometimes to find accommodation outside of the university.
Okay, thank you. And last question for now is, Dexter, by when do applications usually close, approximately?
It's a rolling application. I would suggest that the latest that you could apply, and within reason, probably April next year would be the latest. But the sooner you apply, the better, because if we fill the program earlier, we'll close it off, so we do encourage early applications insofar as possible, but we do still accept applications up till about April, for the full-time program.
Okay, great, thank you very much. I think those were the questions we received. I check if there's any last one maybe in the chat that I missed. No, doesn't seem like. So I think we have answered all the questions. I think then the rest is all clear. So that is good. And I'd like to wrap it up for that part. I do have a last polling, so I will drop it on the screen, because that is just to know how we did, just to have an idea. And sorry to block some of you in the process. So it's just for getting the grade from you on how you felt the session was. And if you want to provide any feedback, do by all means let us know. Having said that, thanks everyone for joining. I'd like to especially like to thank the students, Dan, Laura, Carol and Philip, thanks a lot, because your experiences, that is exactly what I think students, potential students are looking for. And you're actually living it. So great to hear that. And Mayra, thanks a lot as well. Maybe you want to wrap up the session, Mayra, to the rest. And thanks everyone.
Yeah, just firstly, Luke, thank you for facilitating the session, and thank you to the students. As I said, what I can tell you about the programme is nothing as interesting or as insightful as the students themselves. So thank you very much, all of you, for taking your time today. Thanks for everybody who joined us in the audience. We appreciate it. And as I said, I am here at any point if anybody wants to talk to me directly or ask me any questions, please reach out. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.